20 of AI GTM Talks. Uh, Thank you for so many of you who've been joining us. We do this every Thursday at 8:30 a.m. Pacific time. We've been doing these series of talks to hopefully, clear up some of the confusion around a lot of the AI tech that's coming in to go to market across companies. And we bring on either seasoned CEOs, tech CEOs who go deep into one area. We also bring on very seasoned senior revenue leaders, growth leaders, um, and who have a lot of experience, who can hopefully share their insights with us. So I'm very excited to have Kaddy Srinivasan here today. Kaddy, how are you? Welcome.
Thank you so much. It's super exciting to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, absolutely, Kaddy. So I'm going to put up the next slide, which obviously will help folks learn a bit about you, and then we'll get into obviously the a lot of hopefully interesting discussion topics for everyone. So I know, Kaddy, you haven't announced yet, but you're working at an exciting new company. You're a three-time CMO. Can you tell folks a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, happy to. I tell people I started life as a software engineer, but I was really so bad at it that that nobody in the valley would have hired me. Thankfully, I found my way into marketing. So I kind of I tell people I'm a failed engineer turned marketer. I went over to the dark side.
Okay.
I've done a lot of different business models in my time. I think in the last 20 years or so. I started life as a consumer packaged goods marketer, and that's a very different ball game, as you can imagine. Then transitioned to entertainment and gaming, which was a little bit one step closer to tech. And it was just one of the most fascinating times of my life. And then from there, I went to Dropbox and a company called Klaviyo, then from there to Lightspeed. So I've sort of gone through the gamut of everything from a freemium model to a PLG driven model to an SLG driven model. And now I am actually in a company that I won't share yet, but it's deep into the infrastructure, AI infrastructure space, which has been very different from what I've done so far. So I'm kind of getting I've gotten a very good sense of what it means to be at the application layer and running, helping market applications, SaaS applications, to now thinking about how do I enable those SaaS applications with AI infrastructure and marrying that with what customers want.
Okay, awesome. So, we'll be running through a series of questions, and I know you and I talked about this. I think we've had, some amazing speakers, but there's a couple of areas we have not had a chance to really dive deep into, and I know you'll bring some very unique perspective there. One is certainly, I think we should talk about AI agents, agentic web, agentic infrastructure. That's an amazing area for us to dive deep into. The other one, I know you and I talked about briefly before this session, which is AI, as you know, is coming in completely changing the organization. Like, how do you run marketing? How do you run sales? How do you run go-to-market? So I'm hoping we can dive into those two areas. But before we go there, if you can tee things up a little bit for us. So talk a little bit about the current company you're at, maybe in broad terms. I know we're not ready to talk about the company by name, but then what are you all trying to do? What problems are you trying to solve for?
Yeah, our hypothesis is that when you look at AI, the AI landscape is full of sort of flashy demos. People who are solving for single use case, a couple of use cases, narrow niche kind of products. But those don't actually work in big enterprise production grade environments where you need security access, you need reliability, and that kind of stuff. So what we are trying to solve for is that part of it, which is how do we get AI to work in an enterprise in a reliable, accurate manner that builds on that domain expertise and that doesn't break with edge cases. It doesn't like just go off and do its own thing. And so we are trying to help companies deploy the right kind of AI infrastructure layers so that they can utilize AI at large scale within their enterprises. So it's basically we call ourselves a composable AI infrastructure company because you can pick and choose the kind of components you want and tailor a specific AI deployment to your organization.
Got it. If you could elaborate then a little bit on what are some of your initial target segments,
Yep.
personas, size of
Yep.
companies, who all are you're trying to pursue? Yeah.
Yeah, we work with very knowledge-rich verticals such as
Mm,
consulting and media, publishing, financial services.
mm,
We target very specific kind of personas of people who are consuming large amounts of information, so they have information overload. There's also workflow complexity because there's multiple cooks in the kitchen, so we kind of
mm,
streamline that part of it. And then at some point, it does things are a bit more formulaic, so you can leverage agents to drive some of those outcomes, but with some magic sauce in it. So consulting is a good one, media and publishing is a good one, and then
yeah.
financial services is another thing that we kind of go after. But the main use case, I would say, for us is wherever there's a lot of data and we need to synthesize, analyze that data, marry it with public data, bring it all together in a way that create some new content for end consumers. That's where we
Mm.
shine, because we kind of put those two things together in a very good way.
Okay, that's interesting. But just to just to make a finer point on this, are we talking about enterprises kind of $1 billion and up? Is that kind of your core
Right.
target?
Sorry.
Also doing mid market, upper mid market, 500
Yeah.
million to a
It's
billion, like ready.
exactly. It's mid-market and up. To your, I didn't answer that part of the question. Yes, it's mid-market and up. Anybody that has a significant size of employee base who
Okay.
is looking to deploy agents within their organization and needs
Yeah.
that sort of orchestration layer to make sure these agents and the work outputs coming out of the agents are reliable. It's accurate. It's domain specific. Those are the areas we go after.
Got it. Got it. So, I mean, I'm assuming, like everybody else, you must be trying to figure out, okay, how do I use AI myself to
Yep.
run our own marketing, sales, go to market?
Yep.
What are you all doing around, let's just call it using AI for your own GTM efforts today?
Yeah. So I kind of think of the world as the world of marketing agentic software as three buckets, if you will. One is the content piece, which is very obvious. I think all of us use some kind of LLM to do even basic things these days.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the design portion. So you use the Heygens of the world or the Soras of the world to do some things. And then
Mm-hmm.
the third leg is, broadly falls into this category of action agents, which is basically
Mm-hmm.
the agents that take action on your behalf. And Operator was that from ChatGPT, but you have agents that are like, answering phone calls and sending emails and those kinds of things. So
Mm-hmm.
we use the content piece a lot, we use the design piece a lot, and we are starting to do more within that action agent piece internally. So we are using 11x. We are trying out a few other tools. Um, and across the board, and by the way, I should also mention, we actually internally have the ability to build agents on our platform for the first two sort of pillars. So when I think about what we are using within marketing and sales and go to market internally, we span across that layer, but it's not as easy as just plug and play, right? I'm sure you've heard this from your previous speakers as well. All of these tools, they some of them have deep integrations into a CRM like a HubSpot, but at the end of the day, you still have to do a lot of the automations yourself, the workflows, inserting those into the workflows that you have currently. And so I've actually hired a prompt marketer. I call it a prompt marketer, but
Mm-hmm.
it's basically a person who is creating agents for us for our specific use cases and is helping chain those agents across other things. So, my ideal vision is that we build our agents on top of our platform, but then we also call other agents and then we kind of daisy chain all of that stuff. So it becomes a workflow, a different kind of a workflow.
Got it. Got it. And then to do this so-called agent chaining, passing data around, I mean, can you elaborate a bit? Like, how is that? Like, I'm just curious, like today, how are people doing it?
Yeah, I think so. On our platform, we can call agents within one agent can call another agent, but again, our agentic framework is a little bit relegated to the content piece of it, what we call
Right.
knowledge agents. So it's just returning
Yes.
content outputs.
Right.
Outside though, um, I haven't done this. Sorry, I've done one part of it and I haven't done the other part. The part that I've done is using Zapier to connect the different agents and connect different
Right.
workflows together to create the output. That's actually that or make.com or N8N.
Hmm.
Those are all more accessible tools, if you will, for people who are non developers to create those daisy chaining sequence of agents. But I think
Got
if
it.
you want to go much more deep, then you use a LangChain type of a thing
Hmm.
to create that platform. And I don't know enough about that part of it, to be honest. I just know
Hmm.
that's where the flexibility and the security and the governance comes in once you start using something like a LangChain.
Got it. No, no, I think you pretty much answered my question because, at least in the GTM world, the
Yeah,
three tools that keep popping up for workflow use cases are what you mentioned, the Zapiers and the Makes and the N8Ns of the world.
yeah,
And so it's interesting you talked about LangChain, but yes, I can see where in the enterprise, as you go further up market, you may have some other
yeah.
approaches, some other tools that may come in. Okay, interesting. I think next up was, yeah, I mean, I, where have you found your, call it, initial success in applying AI for your GTM, and where are you seeing some, very obvious use cases you've already operationalized? You're seeing good value. Kind of where are you getting your unlock in terms of effort versus
Um,
ROI?
I think the on the content generation piece, it's very obvious in terms of using, let's say a chat GPT, or if you go and create a custom GPT for your organization,
Yeah.
then you can unlock a lot of throughput and velocity. You can create more blogs, you can write better SEO content, emails, whatever that is. But the trick there is that you have to go through multiple levels of prompting to get to the right GPT outcomes, and that's the trick, right? That's the secret sauce. So
Yeah.
that's one thing that so we have the equivalent of that in our company. So we are doing that. So I'm basically pulling out um, my my certain skills around storytelling and
Mm.
codifying that into a prompt that
Yeah.
then my team can use to go and create the right kind of content, and it becomes more scalable.
Right.
So
Right.
instead of me re-editing everything, it's like, you have an agent that basically organizes things as I would, and then people can add their magic on top of it. So there's a very specific, like, there's a clear outcome there on the content side. The design is also another one. The one that I'm really excited about, to be honest with you, is using tools like 11x.
Mm.
Actually, let's start with clay.com. I think we do see a lot of value to using clay.com in
Okay.
enriching data and looking at the right kind of customers coming into our um, funnel. And then I,
Mm.
I am excited about using tools like 11x, because I think 11x does very uniquely is ties a lot of different data sources together. And
Mm.
I've been actually very impressed with how much they can provide real time updates to a kind of what's happening in a prospect's life. So if, let's say, money is, you raised a round of funding and then you leased a new office in San Francisco, that'll
Mm.
show up as a trigger that you can use to, if I was an insurance company, I'd pitch you on that and say, hey, Money, I saw that you leased your thing.
Yeah.
Do you have any insurance needs, type of a thing.
Got it.
So
Got it. No, no, yeah.
I think this is we are too small, but when I was at my previous company, which was Lightspeed, we were also starting to make a lot of headway into conversational AI for customer service and customer support. And that's a
Mm.
huge use case. I feel like that category is starting to get much more firmed up and solidified outside.
Yeah.
It's I kind of technically go to market, but little bit adjacent to go to market.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, no, I think you've already highlighted actually multiple use cases,
Yeah.
certainly around using AI, leveraging AI. And I think some of the things certainly I'm hearing is how people are trying to streamline and implement, call it internal best practices, right? For
Yep.
example, how do you set up the right kind of AI tools, with some of it where you have to have institutional memory of the organization that gets
Yep.
populated, right? So
Yep.
that you can build your prompt and make it more and
Yep.
more sophisticated.
Yeah.
Versus some,
For sure.
so they're separating the personal space from the, call it the shared space for the company or the business.
Yeah.
Is that something
Yeah.
you've dealt with, and how are you thinking about it? How are you all doing it at
Yeah.
your org?
In my current organization, it's we are so small. That hasn't come up. But let me talk about Lightspeed. Um,
Mm.
we did run into this issue of uh, how do we control for the right kind of, let's call it permissioning or training on the right kind of data sets.
Yeah.
And that was an ongoing conversation. We initially evaluated companies like Glean, which basically you don't, that data doesn't leave your boundaries, and you can do a lot of stuff with Glean within your boundary. But then we kind of started migrating more towards chat GPT and getting the enterprise GPT version. But even then, this is a huge problem. And actually, this is what we hope to achieve. We hope to solve for our customers. The biggest problem as an enterprise buyer is I'm not entirely sure what data is leaving my system right now and where it's going within
Yeah.
if I let some of my employees use it, and what kind of access controls I have around the data, especially with the data that then they generate from the
Mm.
AI and how it's
Right.
getting used. So
Yeah.
I want to make sure that I'm GDPR compliant in everything that we do, or CCPA compliant, particularly in marketing. And one of the biggest
Mm.
problems I had in my previous role is uh, I had no idea what kind of messages we were sending out through the tools we were using, because it was all so much volume, and it was
Yeah.
all being auto generated by AI, and without the right kind of guardrails in place and the quality checks and all the kind of stuff, you could easily get out of compliance.
Mm.
And we were operating in 162 countries, so you have to
Mm.
know what the regulations are and what you can and cannot say in different countries and what languages.
Yeah.
And you didn't ask this, but this is one of the biggest problems in AI right now, is the um, sort of this idea of uh, trust and governance.
Mm.
Being able to trust what the AI is doing, and then being
Yeah.
able to govern and getting the visibility to what's actually the AI is generating as output.
Yep. 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 Yeah. No, makes sense. But yeah, these are definitely interesting times. I mean, I think you're doing quite a bit, as I can see, right, in terms of bunch of different tools, bunch of different tech, internal
Yep.
processes. I mean, it's a lot to take
Yeah.
on, especially for a smaller organization, a lot to deal with and make sense of. And on the flip side, I know, for example, we have our own challenges.
Mm.
We offer what we call a signals hub, which
Mhm.
uh, we believe some companies need to bring all their person level, company level buying signals together, and then they can figure out how to leverage the signals in different tools and tech for
Mm.
outbound email sequencing, LinkedIn
Mm.
sequencing. So it's an interesting time where some tools are trying to do this piece within their tool.
Yeah.
Some tools like us are saying we don't want to do these other pieces, but you can
Yeah.
connect us into a clay, connect us into all these workflow
Yeah.
tools, and do
Yeah.
the outbounding. But there's a lot of jockeying, so to speak, right? Different tools
Right.
trying to do different parts and pieces.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and so people are trying to sort out, okay, what should I
Yeah.
use for what?
Hmm.
Uh, any
Yeah.
guidance for folks watching, listening, in terms of um, where do you go learn about new tech and new tools, and who does what, and who's good at what, and
Yeah.
let's talk about that for a second. Yeah.
I think yeah, it's a very interesting question, both as a enterprise buyer and a marketer. And as an
Yeah.
enterprise buyer, I rely very heavily on word of mouth and
Yeah.
asking people in my network for recommendations, what they're seeing, and that kind of stuff. It
Yeah.
has its pros and cons. The pro is you get a sense of what's bubbling up to the top, but the con
Mm.
is, um, if there are people who have not implemented it correctly, they could be very dismissive of it, and
Mm.
not give you the right kind of feedback about something like that. So I think that's one part of it. I have a big VC community as well. I'm plugged into a
Mm.
lot of VCs, so I hear about the latest and the greatest from them. I recently came across a company called Brandlight, which does generative engine optimization,
Oh,
and
GEO.
they
Yes, that's. Mm.
GEO, yeah. So we've actually started working with them, and they're amazing. So I got to know through the VC network. So there's things like that that happen. I think it's also, as a marketer, on the flip side, how do I get my word out as a AI software company? We are starting to see that events are a big thing. Real life events where you can go and actually talk about what you do, explain, show, potentially have a customer talk about things. That seems to be one of the big kind of tactics to leverage.
Mm.
So I'm sure everybody's doing it. So I get invited to a bunch of events. I get invited
Mm.
to dinners, things like that. That's how I get to know. I think it's also, there's another interesting thing here where Gartner used to be they used to be so focused on legacy software. Now they're really pivoting to talking about AI and the new
Mm.
sort of tools about AI. So that's another area I haven't explored it myself, but as for marketers or for founders, I think that's one thing to explore too, is can you leverage Gartner or Forrester or G2 in some ways to show what you can do?
Oh, interesting. So you're talking about, okay, the coming, almost the rebirth, in a sense of, okay, analysts
Yeah,
have always been around, but then, okay, the analysts, the major analysts are also coming in and starting to cover a lot of the AI tech in a big way.
yeah.
What's your take on, another trend maybe we're seeing a little bit of? I was curious to get your take. Is communities,
Mm,
online communities,
yeah, yeah,
the Reddits of the world, or even call it
yeah,
curated private communities, which are paid
yeah,
communities, like
yeah.
for example, I'm in one of them called Pavilion. um,
Hmm.
any perspective
Yeah.
on those as a way to get the word out?
No, I think it's great. I That's on our roadmap to test in the next few weeks. We want to definitely be in Reddit. We want to be thinking about how to boost on Reddit and do some paid campaigns on Reddit. And it's
Mm.
interesting too. There's a new term called influence engineer. I don't know if you have come across it.
No, that's
It's
a new one for me. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's basically engineering influence by having someone who's mostly focused on Discord and Reddit, and be liking, commenting, kind of being in
Interesting.
the picture. So
Yeah.
we've started to employ some of that stuff, we to kind of see if we can take it forward. So to your point, yes, there's I think communities can be super powerful. And even LinkedIn is kind of a community, even though it's
Yeah.
an open platform.
Yeah. So what I've heard so far is this is crazy, right? Because now who knew, right? In marketing and sales, you'll have GTM engineers and
Yeah,
prompt engineers, and now you're talking about influence engineers.
yeah,
It's like
yeah,
it's almost like marketing sales is becoming more analytical, more data driven, more,
yeah,
you gotta really be able to think through, right? And to be
yeah,
able to do stuff. It's an
yeah.
interesting
I
interesting
I'll
move.
throw out one more job that I think is needed. It's You've heard of this term called forward deployed engineer, right? That's
I've been hearing about it. Can you please
Yeah.
elaborate? Yeah.
It's So think of it as like a sales engineer. Essentially, it's like someone who goes and when the deal closes, or even before the deal closes, they help they help start the deployment process, because it's
Oh,
so
wow.
important to with AI. I think most companies are finding that it's not just off the shelf. You just can't sell it to someone and leave. You have to actually get in there, tune the models, make sure things are working, maintain it to some extent, and move on. So that part is taken care of by the forward deployed engineer. So
Hmm.
I am actually recognizing that there's a need for what I would call a forward deployed marketer. And what I mean by
Okay.
that is,
Yeah.
um, what I'm seeing now is with all of these different tools, it's so hard to educate people on what these tools can do, because it can be so creative, it can be so innovative for your
Mm,
company.
mm,
So instead of taking what the tool does and then saying to people, hey, I'm going to educate you on what this tool does and what problems it solves for you, which is the traditional enterprise marketing approach,
right.
I think there's actually a value to saying, hey, did you know we could do all of these different kinds of use cases
Mm,
that you may not have ever thought about? And those
mm,
are directly supporting your business outcomes. And if you're
mm,
interested, now let's talk about this tool. So it's almost like you're pushing the product
mm,
way up front in the or the problem statement way up in the funnel, even before you
mm.
start talking about the product. So I don't know if it's called forward deployed market or whatever, but it's like more the marketer needs to be extremely uh, immersed in the different kinds of problems we can solve for the customer even before they know what those problems are.
Got it. Got it. You're right. I mean, people have always traditionally said, right? When you getting into a sales process, talk about problems first, and then how your product tech solves the problems. But maybe in some ways, you're emphasizing that for marketers, they really need to understand at a very deep level. Here is
Yeah,
the range of use cases. Here's the range of problems you can solve for, and then
yeah.
literally then help the customer quickly figure out, okay, pick this and let's get going, and then let's
Yes.
tee up the second, third, fourth, fifth, to
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah, especially when the world is moving so fast, it's unlikely that people's day jobs is going to be to come up with new problems that they want to solve from a customer perspective. But if somebody comes to you and says, you may not have thought about this or encountered this, but we can help you solve this thing, and this is one use case, and then there's a second one. I think that'll start piquing people's interest.
Got it. Got it. Yeah. So I'm just. I think you've covered quite a bit in terms of. Um, I think you also touched upon this, but the couple of things I wanted to chat about next was you pretty much have talked about um, different kinds of tech tools that you're using,
Yeah.
categories. You talked about sales, and maybe on the sales side using 11x and some of the others. Um, the Let's maybe pivot and now talk about um, how do you see organizations needing to change and transform
Hmm.
themselves? Let's talk from the CMO, head of
Yeah.
sales on down.
Yeah.
In terms of the organization structure,
Yeah.
staffing, skills. I think you've touched upon a bunch of these, but I'd love for you to elaborate. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The way I see it is almost every job in marketing and sales is changing a lot. And what is happening is, when in the past we had very distinct areas of focus within a marketing organization, now it's all threading together. I wrote a post about it recently called multi-threaded marketer. So we are seeing
Right.
kind of the rise of multi-threaded marketers. And what I mean by that is, in the past we had people who were very specialized in demand generation, product marketing, and brand. And those were the three kind of pillars of marketing, roughly
Right.
speaking.
Right.
Now, if you look at it, a person who works in a startup like ours, I would need them to think about what the product is, write the content or the email around a blog post around that content, um, put that on the website, make it SEO or GEO optimized, track the data of how many people are actually coming to the blog and then starting a trial and whatnot, and do all of that stuff together. And it is possible because you have the AI now, the tools to do it. um,
Mm,
what is important is that they have the strategic thinking ability to be able to execute all of those things,
mm,
and be able to achieve a certain outcome. So you can see those three pillars now become like interwoven, and
mm,
one person has to be able to get to maybe expert level in each of those areas enough to bring and blend it together to achieve outcomes. So when I
mm,
hire people, that's what I'm looking for, is a multi-threaded marketer who can who I can say, go achieve this one particular goal or outcome, and they just go do it. They're able to go and run after it and do it. So when in the past I had my teams organized by those three pillars, now I have organized it by very specific outcomes I want us to achieve. So I want an inbound goal achieved, a comms goal achieved, things like that. Then on top of that sort of structure, as I said, I'm hiring a prompt engineer. I'm hiring potentially, like, thinking about how to staff up this forward deployed marketer type of a person. I'm looking at that influence engineer. So there are new roles that are opening up because of how the world is interacting differently.
Hmm.
So that's kind
Got
of
it.
the way I'm thinking about the org. And then, you look at me, in my past, and again, maybe to give some context, my past role, I was the CMO of this public company called Lightspeed.
Hmm.
I had about 170 people on my team.
Got it.
Here, at this AI startup, I have 7
Oh,
people.
wow. Okay.
So my job went from being a manager of, like, budgets and manager of people, to now like a manager of work streams, and like an Uber project manager, if you will, because I'm the one who's kind of all these threads are all rolling up under me. It's kind of exciting in a way, because there's just a lot of scale you can get out of or like a small team like this.
Hmm. Got it. Got it. So I think of the three other roles you mentioned. The
Yeah,
influence engineer, you already described it as the person who knows how to go out and build
yeah,
brand influence awareness in a lot of different external channels and communities.
yeah.
Um, and then the other one you mentioned, the uh, can you elaborate on the
Prompt.
prompt engineer? Yeah, who's
Yeah,
that person? What does he or
yeah.
she do? Yeah.
So the prompt marketer is basically, when I look at my organization, there are so many different areas where we are not exactly inefficient, but we could have efficiencies built in with the right use of agents, like
Got
creating the
it.
right agents. So this person,
Mm-hmm.
his day job is literally going to be creating agents
Hmm.
for our internal consumption. An example of this is, our founders are extremely well known in the valley, and they give a lot of talks. I'm talking about, like, at least 3 keynotes per week, or per month type of a thing. And so one of the projects that he's working on is synthesizing all of our speakers, all the speaking engagements, and then pulling out very specific nuggets for LinkedIn and X, and creating a whole content programming that we can push out on LinkedIn and X. It's a very simple type of a use case, if you will, but in the past it would have taken me maybe a couple of people to do it, and
Hmm.
now I think an agent can just run it and go, if it has the right prompts built into it. So that's one
Hmm.
specific agent. um, it If you take it all the way into more structured data, currently, I was just sharing this with somebody on my team. I still have a very manual process to update my cost trackers, meaning, like, anytime an invoice comes in, I have a very manual process, or a person who has to go in and input those invoices and track how we are doing against spend, etc. Imagine if all of that could be taken care of by an agent. I don't know if an agent would work, because it's like a little bit more deterministic and
Hmm.
structured, and agents don't really, I think, work super well in that. But that's an example of another thing that I want to be so-called automated. So that's what he
Got it.
does day in and day out.
Oh, wow. Okay, so that I get it now. Okay, that makes sense. Um, then let us talk about, we have so many amazing people, right? I mean,
Yeah,
they've been in the marketing field, sales field for the last 10, 15, 20 years.
yeah,
There are all these wonderful fractional marketers,
yeah.
growth marketers, demand marketers. How do they, you know, call it, close any kind of skill gaps or anything that they need to do to, quote, qualify for what you see as a new evolving world of marketing and sales. You know,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
strengths do you see they bring already versus what are
Yeah.
some areas if you recommend, they should go maybe double down, spend time, plug the gaps, and then they're ready to roll?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think it's I think the advantage for people who have been in seat for a long time is that they have the judgment and the, I guess, what everybody is calling the taste, but it's
Yeah.
basically the heuristic around what makes for a good something X, Y, and Z, whether it's a good ad or a good channel or a good ROAS, or what makes good for a good value proposition type of a statement. So they have that judgment, and
Right.
that's something to really lean into and to capitalize on. So
Mhm.
I think uh, making sure that they are really understanding like the value that they can bring to that equation with the current the experience that they have built up is very key. Then you can just kind of scaffold that with the stuff that's missing, right? That if you've been a VP of marketing for 15 years, it's likely that you haven't been exposed to running paid ads in the way that somebody else would. But now it's easy to get to a certain level of expertise on what does running paid ads mean and which
Mhm.
mm, things matter, etc., using like LLMs. So
Mhm.
it's easy to scaffold all of that stuff and be able to talk to multiple things. You talk to how to create a PR strategy or an ABM playbook or a X, Y, and Z, using educate yourself using LLMs on what that looks like. And then when you
Mhm.
go to these organizations, I mean, like myself, where I'm hiring for a multi-threaded type of a marketer, I'd just be looking for a specific speciality, but be able to orchestrate all of the other stuff, even though that's not your expertise, with the idea of what are we trying to achieve, what are we trying to accomplish. So, I mean, like, I don't know if this is maybe a shameless plug, but I'm going to have a course on Maven soon that talks about the multi-threaded marketer. But I've got to imagine Maven has a bunch of these kind of courses where you can get up to speed super quickly on certain things that are not
Mhm.
your area of expertise. There are tons of these agents and prompts out there that help you get up to speed on what does a great PR communication specialist do? How do they do their job? You can use those kind of prompts. So there are ways to do it, to hack this system
Mhm.
with, especially with AI now, so that you can start to build more of a well-rounded expertise.
Yeah, no, no, fair enough. I think you mentioned Maven, but yes, for example, right, I mentioned the community I'm part of, and they also do a
Yeah,
lot of internal training courses where they bring in,
yeah,
people to do over 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever. Yeah, that's a great way to start getting up to speed. Um, okay, understood. But I think to your point, yeah, there's no shortcut here. You gotta just dive in, get your hands
yeah,
dirty, work in different
yeah,
areas. Um, I also think about prompts as the new IP, right?
yeah, yeah,
Meaning, if you
yeah,
start building high quality prompts, you've got your own prompt library. It's almost like you can walk into from company to company to company, and the prompts you build for yourself and a library of
yeah.
prompts that you have becomes an asset for you that you can take right into
Yeah,
um,
it's
and
very
leverage.
true. I think absolutely. I think it's the your new design portfolio type of a thing that you
Yeah,
can take to different places. And to kind of further your point, it's also the skill of prompting becomes your secret sauce, and that's, I think, how we all learn to differentiate from each other, kind of a thing. Like the more the earlier you can put effort into learning how to prompt, the
yeah.
better. And that's kind of that's going to be the differentiator. And I had my son who's 13 years old. I had him take a couple of AI master classes, and he knows how to start thinking about prompting, and he's gotten much better at it. But if you start earlier, the more you can get better and better over time.
Okay, yeah, no, that's awesome. I think then I know we have a few minutes here. Then are there any what have been any, if at all, any challenges for you in adopting of this AI tech, if you will, for GTM, or and what are you seeing also as a related question is, any misconceptions around what this
Mhm.
AI stuff can do that you've had to debunk along the way, um, as you roll this
Yeah,
thing out?
answering that last question first. I think I don't know. I AI agents don't work super well on structured data, and so that's been an interesting kind of a question mark for me. I think
Got it. Okay.
so. So then, like you have to think about, okay, why is that the case, and is it a matter of bad prompting, bad context windows,
Mm,
bad data, etc., and or what are we trying to get out of it? So that's one thing that I want to dig into a little bit more. The second thing is, but the other part of it is the challenges I have is, again, because AI is so non-deterministic, you just
mm,
can never be fully sure of its output, and that's
okay.
okay in creative type of roles like myself.
Mm,
But when you think about finance or anything adjacent to very specific, 1 plus 1 should always equal 2,
yeah.
then it I'm not entirely sure how we have, as a world, how we get to that point where agents are running everything to that point of absolute precision. So that's
Yeah.
a, kind of a challenge, I think, for everybody to be thinking about.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, so I think we'll just close out with a couple of questions. Let's just talk about what do we see as the future, right? I know in the last couple of minutes,
Yeah,
what's the future for AI for go-to-market? How do you see the evolution in the next 6, 12, 24 months?
yeah.
Where do we start there?
Yeah, I'd say there's probably three things. One is, I think we'll get to that point where we do have autonomous agents within that enterprise
Mm,
context, where you can
mm,
run those agents, let loose on a enterprise data, internal or external, and it delivers the results and outcomes that you want. It's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to take a lot of training and chaining and orchestration and all that sort of stuff. But I think we'll get there.
mm,
And then the second thing is, I'd say, I know the world is being eaten up by specific LLMs, but
mm,
eventually, I feel like we'll get to a point where we need to have model agnosticism. Like if I want to use an ChatGPT for one thing, but a Claude for another, a Gemini for another, they all have their individual strengths, it sounds like. So that orchestration, I think, is going to become very important. And
mm,
then I'd say the third one that I'm sort of excited about is currently, like, an agent is an executor on your behalf. So you can tell it what to do and it'll go and do it, hopefully really well. But eventually it should become more of a collaborator, meaning, in SaaS, whenever things would fall below a certain threshold, it would give you notifications that things are not working well, etc. And if you have a
mm,
really smart employee, that's what they're doing. They're being more proactive about what to surface up, how to look around the corners, that kind of stuff. And so I feel
yeah.
like agents will become a little bit more collaborators in that sense of being able to surface up things more proactively and help with workflows in limited context. I don't expect that'll happen everywhere.
Got it.
I'd say those are probably the three things that I'm excited about.
Okay, awesome. And just as a closing question, what's your advice for companies who are early in their journey, just starting out, and they want to get implementing these AI tech tools for GTM?
I'd say be very clear about what outcome you want to get out of it. What's the
Hmm,
specific goal you're trying to achieve, and in what time frame, and be very clear, because the you can go and do you can slap a bunch of point solutions onto a bunch of things and try to run 15 different things in parallel,
hmm,
but it will create chaos if they're not fully integrated and you're not trying to achieve a certain outcome.
got it.
So have a clear outcome, maybe like have the division of what specific goals are, and and then keep in mind, you can't really just I think you can't just run enterprise grade stuff with just agents or AI. You have to have humans in the loop. So
Hmm,
you become managers of models and agents and humans, not just agent. So think about what that looks like.
Okay, interesting. So I'm going to put up the thank you slide, and so yeah, just how can
Yeah.
people get in touch with you, folks? Say who are interested, would like to learn more, learn about some
Yeah.
other stuff you're doing, like Mavens, the course and so
Yeah.
on. What do you recommend?
Yeah, my email is up here. Feel free to email me, DM me on LinkedIn.
Got it.
Happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Thank you, Kaddy. I think this is, really, really interesting, insightful session. Folks, for watching, hopefully you all, got something useful out of it. Thanks again for joining us. This was episode 20 of AI GTM Talks. Thanks,
Thank you for
guys.
having me,
Bye for
Mani.
now.
Okay, bye.
Absolutely. Thank you.